Welcome to my channel, where there are interesting and equally sensational stories. Listen to today's story. You know what they say? Fool me once, shame on you. But fool me twice, shame on me. So why stay? Today on Our Space, we see what happens when you do. So just cut your losses and run. Up first, the devil's in the details. I feel like such an idiot for thinking things would change just here to share my story. I'm sorry to advance for the long read. I really need to get this all out. Most as a vent piece for myself, but please you find yourself questioning what you should do after you found out your partner cheated. Read this full post. I don't want people to be as hurt as I am right now. Don't make the same mistakes that I did. I broke up with my girlfriend this week. We met online when we were both in high school. Her in the Midwest USA and myself on the East Coast. We've been friends since 2016, dating since June of 2020, and moved in together here on the East Coast in December of the same year. Not only was she my significant other, but I genuinely considered her my best friend and the person I was meant to be with forever. For the entirety of our relationship, we had no issues. I had toxic relationships in the past, but this one was such a breath of fresh air. We both had issues with ourselves, but we were very open about communicating and helping each other work through personal stuff. It really was great while it lasted. But around April of 2022, I noticed something changed. We're both big gamers. And we both have separate friend groups that we play games with. I never had any problems with her having guy friends as I had no reason not to trust her. But like I said, something changed in April. I noticed little things like how she would make sure to mute her microphone if I came into her room, or how she would go back to a game after talking to me. And instead of saying, "Sorry, I was talking to my boyfriend," she would say something like, "I was grabbing a snack," or "I was using the bathroom," even though that isn't what happened. One particular night towards the end of May, we were in the kitchen together and I had hugged her and picked her up. She said she had to go back to a ranked game because she was between rounds. So still holding her up, I had turned to carry her back to her chair. She physically restrained me from carrying her over there, whining and saying her webcam was on before starting to say something like, "I don't want to look weird," or something like that, but trailed off. I shrugged it off and went back to my room, but realized later just how weird it was for her to say that and act like that. A couple of weeks later, I want to use the bathroom and her phone just so happened to be on the sink. Screen on, texts open to a name I didn't recognize. We'll call him Brian. I locked the door, sat down, and took a better look at the text history. There was plenty of nasty talk in there, talking about all sorts of sexual fantasies as he seemed to not live anywhere nearby. What's even worse for me is that they communicated as if they were a couple with her calling him baby and loverboy and all kinds of other pet names. I knew I had to immediately talk to her about this, so I did. I sat her down and asked if she'd been talking to someone else, which she immediately declined. I then told her that she left her phone in the bathroom, and I saw all of her texts with Brian. She broke down right then and there, admitted and apologized heavily, saying she'll stop talking to him, claiming that she loves me, not him, that the relationship means nothing. I basically said that I needed a little break to think stuff over, but we ultimately ended up staying together. She talked about starting therapy to talk to someone about her issues, and based off of where our conversation ended that day, I felt she was genuinely sorry and would work to fix this for us. That is where I effed up for the first time. Fast forward to a month later. I had woken up extra early for work and noticed again that her phone was on next to her as she slept. I took it and saw that she had some strangely lovely texts with her female friend, who we will call Lisa. Not inherently weird as I hear her talk about Lisa a lot. But it wasn't Lisa. I had made a mental note of Brian's phone number when I saw the text the previous month, and Lisa's number matched up exactly. My girlfriend had changed Brian's contact name to someone she knew I wouldn't question that she was texting. And lo and behold, the two of them were still talking as if they were in a serious relationship. "Missy babe, I love you. Good night. I can't wait for you to meet my family." She even mentioned not being able to FaceTime because her roommates are home, and they will be able to hear me. Just the two of us live together in the apartment. So she's lying to this guy too. He has no idea she's in a relationship. I waited until we were both home from work that day to bring it up. I didn't explicitly say that I saw her texts, but it was heavily implied. I asked her if she was still talking to Brian, and she said, yes. She said it's been hard finding the time to tell him, and she said she would do it right away. I told her that as long as she held herself accountable, i.e. tell Brian the truth, talk to her family about what's been going on and actually look to start therapy, then this is something that can maybe be worked through. That, of course, was my second major mistake. Immediately after this conversation, she went out to sit on her car to talk to Brian about how she's in a relationship and can't be talking to him anymore. She then called her sister, spoke to her about the situation, and then called both her mom and dad to attempt to fill them in as well. Though neither parent picked up. She said she would try again the next day, but never ended up calling either of them about it to my knowledge. At the time, I thought that since she'd allegedly cut off Brian and spoken to her sister, she's at least making an effort. I tried to put the situation behind us and focus on the future as our apartment lease was due to end within a few weeks, and we had to figure out what our next plan of action was as far as our living situation. Here's where I made my biggest mistake. My parents, knowing that we run a rough place financially, offered us to come stay with them for a few months, so we can save some money. We took them up on the offer and moved in at the very beginning of September. Since our last conversation in end of September, our relationship seemed to be doing really well again. She seemed to be more honest with me than ever, inviting me to come say hi to her friends on Discord while she was in a call and things like that. But of course, in the back of my mind, I had a feeling of distrust planted that wouldn't go away. She also repeatedly talked about starting therapy, but never actually did. One night in the middle of September, her and I were home alone at the time, and she told me she had to call her mom. Which was weird to me as they don't talk very often. She went out to her car to talk to her and was out there for over 2 hours. When she came back in, she had clearly been crying. I asked what they were talking about, and she responded not much, really. And was clearly struggling to come up with something on the spot. Since I wasn't sure if she was just emotional because of something serious she didn't want to immediately talk about with me, I let her go upstairs without pressing. And since it was late, she went to sleep shortly after. The next day, we were home alone again, so I took the opportunity to talk to her. I asked her flat out if it was really her mom that she was talking to last night. She said that it was, and even showed me the call on her call history. I noticed that there was no signs of Elisa or Brian or anything really on her call list besides mom a bunch of times. Again, I know she didn't talk to her that much, so it was weird to me that her name was in the call history so much. At this point, though, I'd been so paranoid about every little thing that I brushed it off as just that, me being paranoid. I didn't press about it. Well, I should have. The final part of this story just recently happened. She was at work, and I was playing with one of my cats. I wanted to try one of those interactive apps that cats play with on the iPad. It's got fish or mice or whatever on it for them to spot at, not super important. Point is, I knew she had an iPad I could use. I don't regularly use iPads, and I noticed once I got hers that it had iMessage on it, the same iMessage that is linked to her phone. I opened it and saw text from mom that were actually just Brian's phone number again. The texts were honestly very sad to read. Turns out that she never actually told him the truth. From what I understood, she just broke up with him, said she wasn't in a good place to be dating right now. The poor guy was clearly heartbroken, totally confused as to why he was cut off so abruptly. I can't help but feel bad for him as he's got no idea that she's been in a long-term relationship the whole time. She has still been talking to him daily, clearly trying to keep him around as a friend while telling me she cut him off. And if that wasn't bad enough, there was another new person. I'll call him Kevin, who was a member of her friend group that I was already aware of. I'm 99% sure that this guy knew about me dating her as well, but I can't be sure of anything anymore with her. Anyways, the texts were disgusting. Full-on sexting. Talking about how he is her type. He's the one for her. Even saying she's recently bought Linger and is planning on showing him pictures of her wearing it as soon as it arrives. This particularly sent me over the edge, as she's never bought anything like that for us before, despite me suggesting it and offering to buy some. But she's willing to do it for this new guy. Anything believable. When she got home, I confronted her. Immediately told her this wasn't working out. I was very cold about it, not wanting to get angry since my parents were home sleeping. I didn't even tell her what I saw, just that I wanted to break up and she needs to move out as soon as possible. She was in tears, seemingly very upset about this. But I was bone dry. She had sucked out all passion and any care I had left for this relationship. So now here I am. This only happened a couple days ago. She lives in my house 1,000 miles away from her hometown, unable to immediately move out because of not having enough money for another cross-country move. In addition to this, my family thinks she's great. And although I have told them we broke up, they don't know the whole story. If they did, it would make for an extremely awkward and uncomfortable living situation until she moves. To me, it makes more sense to just have her move as soon as possible and fill them in after she's gone. Her current plan is to be out before December. And all of this could have been avoided if I wasn't a freaking idiot by believing that she could change. To the people in a similar situation, don't do what I did. Your partner cheated once and they will cheat again. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this week, month, year, whatever. They will cheat again. And to everyone else, thank you for reading. Again, this is mainly event for me, but please, if you have any input or suggestions, anything at all, let me know. Having more people talk to right now would be great, especially people with similar experiences. Those people chime in. Mrs. Jingles, 0729 first. Tell your family. It will get her to move out faster when everyone knows she's in multiple online relationships, including one where she has him in phone as mom and is exchanging dirty texts and cyber sex. Tell her your parents hope she isn't cybering in their home. She'll be out fast. Tarker78 adds in. Are y'all really gonna let her stick around for 2.5 more months? Bad idea. She needs to move faster. Her money woes are on her. Get her out of there much faster. She can go stay with Brian. Tony in 1989 says she doesn't deserve your kindness. Tell both families and send her bud home. She deserves the shaming and her homelessness isn't your problem anymore. Tell her to call Brian. Honestly, I would tell your parents what the situation was really about her and get her the hell out of there. She can't find her own way. There's no way you'll be able to properly move on from this until she's out of the house. It's like you're a sucker for punishment. I feel like the conversation you had asked her to have with Brian in terms of breaking up should have happened in front of you. That would have been the only way to be sure. But again, why would you want to stick around with someone who was cheating on you? Not once, but twice. I feel like you should have followed up with therapy if you had actually cared. I think you may have been in a little bit of a denial and maybe just pushed the truth away. But why? Why do you think Op stuck around? Up next, cheating is never a mistake. It's a choice, a bad choice. I just found out this morning. My wife went out last night with her longtime friend. Her friend was only in town this weekend, so I knew they would be out late. She didn't get home until 4 a.m., and I didn't think anything of it. Well, she sat me down this morning and said that she made a mistake and slept with someone last night. She was apologetic. I feel numb and don't know what to think right now. We've been married 5 years. I don't know. The community knows Taiwan Bandit chimes in first. You need all the details of the affair partner. Random guy or someone she has been communicating with. You will never trust her again. You both should separate for a few weeks until you can decide how to best proceed. Sorry, man. One of the worst things possible to wake up to. Brooke Trout 523 says, made a mistake. No. She made a conscious decision to do what she did. A mistake is buying whole milk when you meant to buy low fat. She has poor boundaries, poor self-control, and didn't respect you, or care about you when she did it. Now the question is, can you live with that? Apologies mean nothing. Only actions. She's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting to prove she is a safe partner going forward. Mr. Broda has a thought. Now her words are worthless. Never trust a cheater. Only actions matter at this point. She needs to write down everything from now and from ever since knowing op if it could be considered betrayal. This includes access to every device and note. Then op needs to decide if he sees a glimmer of hope. Afterwards, cut out and never repeat anything that leads to this point. This likely means that her friend has to go as he did enable this crap or did not prevent it. Beyond that, the wife of the cheater's partner needs to be contacted if there is one. Now look at therapy. First single one, later couples. At this point, we are at the starting point. If at any point along the way that discussing cheater isn't 100% on board, throw that piece of trash out, because that trash will repeat their discussing actions and cannot be trusted. Least March 7906 wanted to add, yeah, a mistake is forgetting an anniversary of birthday. A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash, or leaving your clothes on the floor. Mistake is forgetting to say I love you when you meant to say it. A mistake is forgetting to do the laundry. A mistake is forgetting to ask you if you want tea or coffee. Sleeping with someone else is not a mistake. It's a decision. Endless Zynga has one thought: losing 5 years of marriage is better than lifelong misery. If you stay with her, one thing is for sure. You will never trust her again. You will never trust her going out, or when you are at work, when she's late from work, etc., etc., and you can't act as a marriage police either. Partners or spouses are meant to have your back, not stab you in the back while you're sleeping. My advice would be, start towards separation, show that her actions have consequences. Otherwise, it's bound to happen again in your life. Typical Agency 8984 adds on. First, the both of you need to be tested. Who was this person she slept with? She needs to be completely honest with you. Did she know the person? Was it someone random at the bar? Check her phone, email, social media message, Snapchat. Make sure to record a confession. Save all info. Talk to an attorney. It's good to know the laws where you live. You don't have to go through a divorce, but make sure you know what to do in case you need to go down that route. Also, don't tell her about divorce until you speak to the attorney. Once you have more info, you need to reflect on the relationship. If you want to try to reconcile, then you both need therapy. You need open phone policy. If it's someone she knew, then she needs to go no contact immediately. If the other person has a significant other, then they also need to know. Lastly, what role did this friend play? Your wife is the one who cheated, but if the friend was manipulative, or the one that she cheated on you with, then that calls for immediate end to their relationship. If that friend were good friends, they would have stopped your wife. I'm sorry, OP. Take time to yourself. Don't rush things. Edit. If it's a person she knows, she needs to call them and end on speaker with you next to her. I think it's normal to feel numb in circumstances like this, but you have to figure out what else happened and how long it's been happening for. It's important to lay everything out on the table. Complete and utter transparency is futile in order to be able to decide what steps to take moving forward. Infidelity can be the wake-up call nobody wanted. And surprisingly, in some cases, it can be the catalyst for a better marriage. Rebuilding trust takes active participation from both partners. Ultimately, trust becomes a choice. There's no guarantee your spouse will never cheat again. However, if you and your spouse have done everything to examine what went wrong, worked hard to build a more fulfilling marriage and continue to bring your best selves to the relationship every day, then if your spouse betrays you again, it's their loss. What are your thoughts? Thank you for joining us today on our space. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. We'd hate for you to miss out. And if you just love my voice and want to hear more stories from me, check out our lounge where I feature a larger variety of non-cheating related stories. See you there.